Hi guys, it's Eric from MultipleWasteLand.com. Today we're going to be putting away some delicious basmati rice. You know, I like to live deliciously, as they say. It is more expensive than the regular, just like cheapest rice you can get, but we're still talking like $25 for a 20-pound bag. Extremely cheap when it comes to calories. I've always been big on rice being like the best possible thing you can store in terms of calorie to dollar ratio, if you can actually stand eating it. I haven't come across too many people who just like hate rice. I can eat it just like regular white rice, and I think that's good that way, but other people might need to add something to it. But regardless, great thing to store long-term food storage. It's really cheap, stores really well, and that's what we're going to go through today's process of actually. I've had these for probably longer than I should. I need to put them away, and perfect timing because we've heard about rice shortages and whatnot. Might be getting some more. We'll see how bad it looks, but just go through really quickly the process for those of you who haven't gone through this before. Most of you probably have, but there's a few things I wanted to point out. So here before me, you'll see all the implements. First of all, you need the buckets. There's a lot of talk always about food grade buckets. Do you need food grade buckets? And food grade, when it comes to plastic and containers like this, and so you say food grade, it really doesn't mean much. It's kind of like organic. The one thing that it does mean nowadays is usually BPA free, usually, but not guaranteed. There's still food grade stuff that's not BPA free, but it also usually means you'll get a little bit of a thicker bucket. That's more important in my mind because I don't put stuff directly into the bucket naked. I use the Mylar bags almost exclusively. If you were to put something directly into the bucket, then it's more important that it's food grade, but still it's not gonna make a tremendous difference, especially if you're not concerned about BPAs, which not everyone is. But that's the biggest difference. So if you can't get food grade buckets, or you just want to save a couple bucks, if you're using the Mylar, I see almost zero reason why it matters. The thickness isn't really significant. I mean, people talk about stuff like pest control. If you know anything about mites or rats, you know that a plastic container of any kind poses almost zero protection. They can chew through metal and stuff if they have even, a few hours left alone. So if you have a mice or rat problem, you've got to take care of that. The container doesn't matter. They're going to blast through it regardless of whether it's food grade or not. But it might make the bucket a little more robust. So I just opt for it if you can. If you can't, just get some buckets that at least have never had anything in them. They're still just going to be number 2 plastic, high density polyethylene. Even BPAs aren't likely to leach through Mylar. So, and even that, BPAs usually only come out of plastic if they're under a lot of heat, which your food shouldn't be anyway if it's stored inside. So that's my thoughts on the subject, is if you're gonna use Mylar, get the food grade if you can, because why not? But if you can't, don't worry about it. Just make sure the bucket hasn't been used for anything before that. So we've got, and keep in mind that for normal rice with the Mylar bag, a 5-gallon bucket can hold about 32 to 35 pounds of rice, just dry rice. So make that into your calculations, and normally you want about 2,000 cc's of O2 absorbers per 5-gallon bucket. I normally throw get somewhere around the 250 to 500s. I don't go bigger than that. Like you can get the 1,000, or I think maybe even 2,000 cc absorbers. But then if you have one failure, you have no oxygen absorbing capacity in that bucket. Whereas if you have 5 or 6 smaller ones, if even half of them happen to be bad or not work for some reason, you still get a pretty decent amount of O2 absorption. So I would stick with the medium-sized ones. I go for 500. That's what I have most of these here behind me, are 500 cc's. That way you just throw 4 or 5 of them in here, depending on how much you want to spend, and you're good to go there. Of course, you want to have your rubber mallet, especially if you have the other types of lids, but even with these Gamma Seal lids, which I really recommend, especially if you're going to stack the buckets. If you're not going to stack them, you don't need the Gamma Seal lids as much, but this makes them a lot easier to open. They're a lot stronger, and specifically, it makes them a lot easier to reopen and close. Like if once you do breach a bucket to start using it, you can get an airtight seal again, on and off again without damaging the lid, a lot better than those ones that you have to hammer on every time. I've had those break on me when stacking the buckets, so now I pretty much exclusively stick with these. And they're more expensive. I remember when we used to be able to get them for $7. It might be 10 or 12 bucks now, but I'm gonna do 4 today, so that's roughly 120 to 130 pounds of rice or whatever, and that's why I have enough here. So make sure you have enough to fill up the buckets. Make sure you have enough oxygen absorbers. Make sure you have enough bags before you crack those open. And another thing that you need, I grab a marker to write on it, scissors if you need to trim or open any of your packages, and you need something to seal. You can use a large impulse sealer if you have some sort of commercial operation. I've always used a regular hand iron or one of these. The iron works fine. You have to set a board or something under it to seal the bag. These are definitely the easiest way to go if you get one that's long enough that it can reach at least into the halfway point of your bag. And this particular one has settings where I can choose the temperature, which is nice because I've read that Mylar seals best from 375 up to 425. So it has settings up to 415 right there. So that should be good. And I'll put links to this stuff. These you can usually just get at Home Depot and get a 10% veterans discount or something like that. But a lot of times, like Firehouse Subs, you can buy their pickle buckets. They smell a little bit of pickles, but shouldn't be too bad through the Mylar bag, especially if you just bleach them out and let them dry out for a few days or whatever. But like I said, anywhere you can get a clean, unused bucket, if it's brand new, I wouldn't be too worried about food grade when you're using the bags. And I always use the bags anyway. I don't like the idea of just pouring it right in the bucket because they can be cracked and whatnot. And they probably unlikely, if you have a double seal for airtight, then the O2 absorbers are going to be a lot better. I like to use the bags that are far big enough, like 6 gallons I think these are. And because it's a lot easier to just trim off extra bag and have a little bit to work with than to try to make sure they fit perfectly with the max amount of rice. And because space is always a key issue. So I want to save the most space by putting the maximum amount in there. So I found that you can kind of want to like almost fold it a little bit before you put it in there. Not exactly roll it, but you're gonna have some part that's like almost pinched on the edge there while you open it up, because you want to get like the maximum amount of space. Because any wasted, you want to kind of get the bottom. I don't know of anybody, but somebody could probably make some money by making a bag that's actually shaped like a duffel bag with a round bottom, specifically for putting in these 5-gallon buckets. It would just make it a little easier. That would be more expensive, but if you're just going for like maximum efficiency and everything. So like you see, this will take up some space, but the bags are pretty stiff, so at the beginning there will be some wasted space, and you want to make sure that you get that. You want to be able to get at least 30 pounds in each one. So you want to do pretty much all the steps you can before you open the oxygen absorbers. And it's a good idea to have a jar handy too, something that can't collapse, so that you can put them in there if you're going to have extras, or even in between, just to not absorb any additional oxygen. Okay, so I've got as much rice as I think I'm going to need already out of the bags. Excuse me. And of course, I accidentally ripped one of the bags and there's like 2 handfuls of rice on the floor. But these nifty burlap sacks too, you can make a ghillie suit or something out of those. Or a scarecrow mask. Yeah, I'm dumping rice everywhere. So now the next step is to fill it up. You might want to already turn on, as soon as you get close to the last bucket being full, you want to turn on your, see this nifty, where is it? And then I can just go up to 415. Give it some time to heat up. And then we're gonna start pouring in these bad boys. And you also wanna, of course, inspect any of the bags, regardless of whether you have or haven't done the freeze thing. I don't usually do the freeze thing. I think that collecting moisture from that is, if the is more likely to be a problem. If you're putting it in here with the airtight seal and the oxygen absorbers, it's extremely unlikely that you'll have issues with bugs, but it's certainly, I don't think, a bad thing to do. I just think it's unnecessary most of the time. Like I was saying, these bags can be so stiff that they'll actually be dead unused space if you're not careful and you don't tamp it down. And you also want to be careful that you do not overfill it to where you can't close it after you throw the O2 absorbers in and seal it. So it'll take a little getting used to recognize that point exactly. But like before you seal it, maybe fill it up, curl the bag over, put the lid on, just make sure it closes before throwing the O2 absorbers in and sealing it. So we don't need, once we seal it, we won't need all this extra plastic, but it's a good measure. See, once you have that, you seal it without cutting any plastic on. I can probably put a little more in there. push it on this one. I'll get a little more. Alright, that's gonna be close, but we can do it. Next up. Also keep in mind that fitting the rice in there is one thing. Once you seal it, there's going to be some air trap too that might eventually get absorbed by the oxygen absorbers, at least the O2 part of it. But, so if it seems really close to where you're going to be able to close it now, like this one, it's going to be tougher when you go to action once they're already sealed. So you can easily push all the air out and then seal it, but still, the more novice you are if it's your first time, give yourself a little bit of extra space. But I think I'm pretty close on these. I have, that's 120 pounds in 4 buckets. I'll probably take a little bit out, but you know, so 30 pounds per bucket. And you can push that a little bit sometimes, but not much beyond that. 32, I think, is like what I normally get. But 30 pounds is a good bet. So now we're looking for anywhere from, if you get 500 cc absorbers, we're looking anywhere from 4 each to 6 each. 5 is usually what I go with. If you have ones that are older and you doubt maybe their efficacy, then I would, first of all, I would just try to get some new ones. But if you can't, then maybe go on the higher end. So anywhere from 16 to 24, depending on, but make sure your thing is warmed up. Make sure your lids are ready to go. I'm gonna take these off. And we got our mallet ready. Got our scissors ready in case we need to trim any bag stuff to get it to fit in here. And I'll try to show you a close-up. So I've got 20 here. Definitely, if the bag isn't like shrink wrapped tight still, that's a dead giveaway that these are no good anymore. Oops, don't need that in there. So we are going to go 5 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just throw them on top. And that should be fine. I don't think burying them in the rice or anything is unnecessary. It's oxygen we're talking about after all. It'll be able to suck it from anywhere in this container as long as they're tight. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you got to get to work. Like I said, the best part, or the best bet, is to make sure that you squeeze as much of the oxygen, this air, I guess, not even oxygen, air out as you can first to make sure, not just to put less stress on the O2 absorbers, but just to make sure that it's going to fit afterwards. You know, you want to be able to, there you go. So I kind of fold it over, squeeze all that air out, have this thing up to temp, and then I get as close down as I can to where the actual bucket lid is, because first of all, it allows you space to make 2 seals if you need to, and also it allows you to cut some material off if you need to. This thing is up to speed. I'm gonna have to go in the middle too to seal that off, which is what I talked about earlier. But it shouldn't be an issue, so you have to make sure that these are long enough. So you can also do it like this. And just do the entire thing. No noise. No noise. Booyah. So now we want to add the next layer of protection and the ability to open these back up again. That is the Gamma Seals. So these are just a mixed color. In this case, the color does not mean anything. You want to make sure you don't pinch any of the Mylar bag under there, and then you can try pushing it, but you're probably going to get the best bet with the hammer. Good. And then this just screws on. And as you can see, I left enough space. And you want to make them snug, but not so incredibly tight that you can't get them off later. And that, my friend, is a finished bucket. Once you've used these, like I said, link will be in the description. Look around, because it's possible to find some deals on these if you just buy. I'll try to find the cheapest ones I can, but once you go with these, you'll never go back to those other type of lids. They're just so vastly inferior that it's not even close. And if you want, since there's space in there, unlike when you just have the naked rice, you can put a little, and you can open this up to put a little pamphlet of, more nutrition information if you want, stuff about recipes, maybe even some hidden cache of data. People are unlikely to go through rice buckets, find your maps. And as you can see, these stack a lot better. Way stronger, obviously, way easier to get into. So Gamma Seal all the way. And then I'm going to, first I'm gonna unplug my heat source. Then I'm going to cut these off all the bags and find a spot to just tape them on there. And I'll write the date on there as well that I packaged them up. So there you have it. These are great, stack a lot better. Definitely go with the Gamma Seal lids. I mean, if you're talking about, what is this? I think we got like 32,000. How many is this? Six times.
A few moments later.
So there's 30,000 calories per bag. And we have 6 bags. So it's 180,000 calories. 6 bags is roughly 120, 150 bucks. So we have 150 bucks in rice. Let's say 35 in Gamma Seal lids. It's 185. And then maybe 6 or 7 a bucket. So you're looking at $205, $200 to $15, somewhere around there. When you count the Mylar and the oxygen absorbers, maybe $230, $250, whatever. Let's say $250. Let's just round up. Stuff's getting expensive. 250 bucks for your own packaged, and this is a nice rice, by the way, too. You can get that for $10 a bag. 250 bucks worth of everything for 180,000 calories. At 2,000 calories a day, that's 60,000 for a month. This is 3 months supply of calories for $200. Packaged in a way that should last anywhere from 20 to 30 plus years. Rule the wasteland. There you have the finished product. And like I said, you can put these on here. See this great GMO-free basmati rice. Of course, the 20 pounds isn't accurate, so I write the date, when I bucketed it, and then you got all you need.